Hey guys! So I'm back after about a week of not posting videos. Just to give you a quick spiel of what I was doing. If you didn't know, I drove from Seattle, Washington to the Malibu area in California, and I decided to do that in one little trip, which was 18 hours straight. Wouldn't recommend that. And then I just drove across the country from, again, the Malibu, California area to South Carolina, and that was about a 34 to 36 hour trip. But I did stop along the way. I stopped at hotels, and also I was traveling with two cats, my cats Pumpkin and Flare, and they were really good. So now I'm in South Carolina. This isn't going to be my permanent setup. Eventually I'm going to set up in my room, but this is a kind of a temporary situation, and we will see what the future holds. So today I thought it was appropriate to talk about the ISFJ personality. I've talked about this in other videos, but my mom is actually an ISFJ, and I'm actually staying with my mom right now. We're going to be living together. Yes, I did move back home with my parents, well, my mom. And I will make a video about all of that in the future. But anyways, so my mom is an ISFJ. I have a few friends that are ISFJ. And I know of at least one guy that I dated that was ISFJ. And I feel like I may not be friends with too many. Well, I feel like I am friends with quite a few ISFJs, but the majority of the ISFJs that I've seen or know, I'm not necessarily friends with, or I may be acquaintances with. But yeah, let's jump into what ISFJs are and my experience with them. So, as an INFJ, I get along really well with ISFJs. At least I have found. And in Myers-Briggs, if we're thinking about the cognitive functions, ISFJs lead with introverted sensing. That's their first function. Their second function is extroverted feeling, FE. Their third function, or their tertiary function, is introverted thinking, TI, and their final function, or their fourth function, is extroverted intuition, NE. So, that being said, INFJs and ISFJs can look kind of similar at first. And in socionics, which again in socionics, for introverts, the P and the J are flipped or switched. That relationship is a look-alike relationship, because if we want to think in Myers-Briggs terms, the secondary and the tertiary functions of both INFJs and ISFJs are the same. So we both have FE second and TI in the third slot. So what I've found from ISFJs is stereotypically you kind of see them as a caregiving type. ISFJs and ESFJs are seen as very nurturing. If you want to be stereotypical, you may see an ISFJ in a medical profession as like a nurse, or maybe even working in a nursing home and giving care to people. And also it's been claimed that Mother Teresa was an ISFJ. The thing I find very interesting with ISFJs, and the thing that makes ISFJs very different than INFJs, is although we do look alike, and in fact the guy that I was dating, that is an ISFJ. At first, I almost thought that maybe he is an INFJ, but when you get to know them on a deeper level, you realize, and I realized this with one of my ISFJ guy friends, is we were kind of comparing notes about this. When I walk into a room as an INFJ, and I think other INFJs would be able to relate to this, I can walk into a room and only see certain people in the room, or only see certain details. And it's not that I'm like intentionally trying to do this, and I've kind of termed this phenomenon in my head, at least when it comes to people, as like background characters, and I know that sounds kind of weird, but I often would, especially in college, or should we say university if you're in the UK or not in the US, I would go into certain classes and I just would not see certain people. It wasn't like I was being mean or that I like didn't regard them as like, I don't know, the same, but I just simply didn't see them. And so oftentimes I would have people from my classes that would be like, oh, we were in such and such class together, and I'm like, oh, yeah, like trying to play along, because I did not, there were certain people I did not see. It was either I saw you or I didn't see you. Whereas an ISFJ, they notice every single person in the room, or at least this has been my experience with ISFJs. They are very attuned to details. Introverted sensing is very attuned to details. And so my ISFJ guy friends, when we were trying to figure out his type, he was talking about, no, I see everybody in the room. I see all these different details. And I was like very astounded. I'm like, whoa, you're a wizard. Like, that's so cool that you can do that. And I realized that that's actually a pretty normal thing. INFJs are pretty odd in that regard. That we are very oblivious to a lot of stuff. We are more focused on the big picture rather than the little things, whereas ISFJs really are focused on the little things. Going into like my mom, who is an ISFJ, like I said, I'm going to be living with her, and I'm living with her right now. I hope you guys don't mind. I'm gonna have to finish this video with him in my arms because he is a jumping bean and he doesn't like the fact that I'm ignoring him right now. So anyways, growing up, if you were to walk into my house, it was very well decorated. And I'm not saying that all ISFJs are necessarily have natural decorating skills, but something you will find, and I believe this is true for a lot of ISFJs, if not all, if you walk into an ISFJ's house, especially one that they had a lot of say in the decorating, you're gonna find, if anything, it's very homey feeling. There's gonna be a certain warmth that you get from entering that house. And with our house, it was very well decorated. My mom is an interior designer. She does do that kind of work on the side, and she actually owned a home design store. So it was very well decorated, and she also had a very good eye for detail. And something that's kind of funny, this is kind of a temporary situation that we're living in right now, but even at that, she didn't like certain things about where we're living, so she decided to paint, and that was such a big deal for her. Whereas with me, I wouldn't give a flying flip about this. I would probably be like, alright, so I know that we're gonna not live here in the future, so it's okay. I don't really care about living here. So I'll just suffer not suffer through, because I don't really care, but I'll just put up with it for now, and it's not a big deal. But for my mom, it is a big deal to have those kind of details. And I find ISFJs to be very deep, and they can be, this is also a reason why they can be seen as INFJs or have a confusion, maybe a mistype, is INFJs have a certain intuition where they are able to, and it's really from their introverted sensing and their extroverted feeling, but they are able to realize things about people, much like the INFJ. It's in a different way. I do find with my mom it's kind of more of an instinctual thing. Not saying that it isn't instinctual with INFJ, but it's more of a feeling that she gets, but she has more practical reasons for it rather than me. With TI as the third function, she's able to connect the dots that aren't necessarily there, but, or as they appear, and it's kind of seen as illogical. But it's a lot more practical than an INFJ. And in that regard, they can be seen as more logical than INFJs because they are more practical people. I find, if we're thinking in socionics terms, again, ISFJs, which are ISFPs in socionics, and INFJs are INFPs in socionics. ISFJs or ISFJs, ISFJs or ISFPs in socionics, they fall in the alpha quadra, and I find the alpha quadra pretty practical in general in the way they think, and I think that has a lot to do with their SINE loop, or that little situation. I don't know if this video made sense actually, and my battery is about to die, but I hope you liked this video, and there's a lot of things that I could say about the ISFJ. And of course, if you have been watching the trends, I will post my what it was like dating an ISFJ as an INFJ video in the future. But yeah, I hope you guys are having a great day, and I will see you in the next video. And this little boy may be seeing you in the next video too. Say bye, Henry. Are you good boys? Oh, you just want to do kisses? You just want to do kisses? No, no, no. Bye. Alright, bye.